Hi, I'm Lily from the Cardiff and South East Wales JLD, and today we're going to be asking some people in the Cardiff legal community what it means to them for Black History Month.
Good evening, my name is Daniel and I am on the committee of the Cardiff and South East Wales Junior Lawyers Division as a pro bono events and media officer. And in my daytime, I moonlight as a future trainee and paralegal at leading law firm Mitchell Moores, as well as the co-founder and director at the National Community Law Project.
Okay, Daniel, so I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
This year's Black History Month theme was action, not words. What does that mean to you?
Well, I believe it's a very interesting and specific choice of words because just inherent actions, not words. It shows that we've been in this community and this legal profession for so long, but only now are they saying, okay, enough is enough. Let's actually do something about it. Let's put some meat on the bone. Let's actually put some action behind just the fluff, all the posters, all the diversity quotes. Let's actually do something about this. And I think with so many in-your-face events happening, such as the tragic death of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and so many countless cases that are buried in the media and all the constant headlines, we need to actually be able to show people that change is actually happening. And I'm still young in my life and my career, so I can't necessarily define it, but I know my generation wants to see that things are actually being done, which is why we have so many powerful things such as the Me Too movement and other things like Black Lives Matter, with the things that's supposed to change. We want to see us going from A to B and actually showing that it is positively affecting our lives.
Yeah, and what change would you like to see in the Black community or the BANG community in the legal field? You know, we talk about actions, not words, and actions speak louder than words. But what kind of change do you think would be the most poignant to really see that?
I'd say the biggest change would be showing that there are more of us out there. Like growing up myself, I was the only Black kid in my class ever since primary school. I was the one standout guy. Like it was like I loved English, and one of the most weirdest and awkward and most biggest highlights was in year 12 where we were reading Othello. And in that story, he was the only Black guy in Rome, in the city, in the army. And you know when you just read it out in class, and I had to be the one guy. There's this line Shakespeare put, it was like the sea of whiteness. And I was literally looking around and everyone was just looking at me like this. And I was like, oh no. And it's just one that, it's subconscious, but it reminds you of who you are and where you're at. I want to be able to see more of myself on those leadership areas. I want to be able to see role models that are just plain sight. I want to feel like I'm not an anomaly or a minority. I just want to feel like I'm equal and belong, you know? And seeing is believing. Once you actually see more people like you standing side by side behind you, your juniors, your mentors that you can aspire to, I think when we get to that change, you'll really feel like we're making progress.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's like the whole concept of little kids growing up and seeing their representation and saying, I can become that too. So I have to ask you the next question. Who's your biggest role model and why?
Well, I'm going to be a bit cheeky and I'm going to say not only my mom and dad who have been bedrocks for me, but I think what's unique about us as Black people is my role model has been my general community. Because the biggest thing I love about being Black and growing up, I'm Nigerian born and bred, and with our culture, everyone is family and everyone looks out for you. Like just all the churches I've been to, they literally treat you as if you're your own. And the amount of uncles and aunties who might not be related by blood, but as much as family as anyone else, the way they make sure that they give you the resources and the tutelage and the lessons that they didn't get growing up. And since we're in a more progressive age, I think that's really helps me, having people who I can just call up and be like, please, can you help me? And they'll be able to invest in me and take me into the right direction. And I think just having that support network is something that's really vital, because as we're a minority, I believe, I'm not sure what the current stat is, but last time I checked, it was about Black people are about 14% in the UK. And just walking around, it's hard to have access to that support, and growing up in situations where it might not be the most privileged, where I was on free school meals, I was in a single parent household for most of my life, and I remember having to go out of my way to be able to get to the same levels that other people could get. And I think just making sure that I did have that support network, I think that really saved me, to be honest.
But I think because you say all those things, that makes you a role model for so many people too, because it didn't come easy for you, you really had to work for it. And I think that is really inspiring to a lot of people in a lot of different situations or similar situations. They too can become a solicitor, and I think that's really positive. Kind of your community law project, you're very involved with pro bono stuff, and I can really see that you kind of the ladder and you're reaching your hand back down. And I think that's a really great thing. So I have to read this because I have not memorized it. The recent former president of the Law Society of England and Wales, Stephanie Boyce, said, "Black people often experience racism and discrimination. Then they are expected to fix it. This must change. A third of Black, African, and Caribbean solicitors say they have experienced some form of discrimination or bullying in the workplace, the highest figure reported by any ethnic group. Have you ever seen or experienced discrimination in your own legal career?"
Well, I'm someone who's very optimistic and glass half full, so even if I did see microaggressions, it's not something that I would use it to identify myself with and take it into heart. And there have been cases that I won't name because it's quite deep, but there are things that I've definitely seen, especially growing up as a young Black kid in London, and just seeing it on the news in general, especially in America. There's so many cases such as we see how we have to be apologetic as Black people for just being our natural selves, whether it's the way we talk. There's a code growing up in urban areas called code switching, which many young Black people are familiar with, which is the practice of basically when you're in a different environment that's not natural to your own and you're surrounded by a different demographic, you have to change the way you naturally act, speak, and your mannerisms just to feel like you fit into the majority. And because of that, you identify and you feel like you can't be yourself truly where you work. And there are things that sort of work there's a culture in the workplace of how you're supposed to dress and how you're supposed to look like, where there are many laws or bills or workplaces that actually will literally fire you just for having not what they deem as professional hairstyles.
Yeah, I was about to say, I've had, especially in the States, I have a lot of, especially, female Black friends, and
having afros
they would have their natural hair and be,
Exactly.
told off at work, and they're like, this is my hair, what do you expect? It is professional, it's well-groomed, so it is, it is very interesting, but would you say that because it's become more discussed in society, would you say it is changing, that there's more pressure on corporations and in the legal field for them to kind of accept that and not to almost, hate to use the word, but almost whitewash minorities? Would you say it is changing, or it's on the progress of change, or do you think it needs more work?
I'd say it needs more work, but I'm glad to say that in my experience, especially with my firm, I absolutely love it, where they treat me, they appreciate me for who I am, and they're happy, they love that I'm so energetic and so extroverted, and that I just am passionate about who I am, where I come from, and my race, and I like telling them about my culture and everything.
As you should be, yeah.
And it's great, like all that African passion, bringing that spice. Like,
love that.
It's such a breath of fresh air, but I feel like with the pressure that we do have, it's good that we're getting people to talk about it, but as the slogan, actions, not words, we need to actually see that it is happening. Like, in relation to your previous question, I do know a friend who had a job interview and he was literally perfect on paper and he gave the best interview answers, but they didn't give him the job at the time, literally because of his African hairstyle. And then once he was told by HR to basically cut it, that's only when he got the job. And it was confirmed when he did get in that the HR was like, yeah, you had to fit a professional image, you had to have like all clean shaven and everything like that.
Then you have to, it's a bit of who makes that professional image. Yeah, there's not enough
defines
representation in those
100%.
sectors to speak up and to represent the minorities.
Exactly.
So, and what would you like to see change for the BAME community in the legal sector?
I think what for ourselves as a community is to not be apologetic, to basically wear who we are on our sleeve, be proud to be wherever you come from your heritage, not just from Black people, just who you are. We're all human beings and we want to aspire to be something greater, to be able to have positivity and stability for not only ourselves but our future families and things like that. And for the BAME community specifically, I definitely believe that it will be important to show that we can stand for ourselves and that we do have our place in society, and show that we can defy any prejudice or stereotypes and not allow unconscious bias or bad experiences to limit our confidence and our self-worth, to know that you do deserve to be on that table. You do deserve, even though if you're the only Black kid in class like me, you do deserve to be in that selective grammar school that you made it into. You do deserve to get into that top competitive magic circle experience I was able to, even on free school meals in BAME. Like, in my own personal experience, I thought basically the world was against me. There were so many hurdles I had to get up to. But when I found out it was possible for myself, someone like me who had to struggle to get to that place, anyone can do it. And that's really what I want to see, that you can look to your brother, your sister, and be like, we did it, and I will help you too from past experience.
Yeah, that's very inspirational. I actually really love that. What advice would you give to others in the legal field that could better support the BAME community, such as myself? How could I better support my colleagues?
I think maybe the good thing that we could do is make sure that we are open-minded and that we do have those hard discussions, because we don't want diversity and BAME to just be a rubber stamp. I mean, we talk of culture is such a big thing, and you want to be open and welcoming and have the greatest amount of talent, but you can't find the talent from just a select group, just white or privately educated class. You need to have a spread. What clients that are going to law firms, they're going to them. I went to an event called Black in the City, run by a Magic Circle firm called Shim and Sterling. And then their clients are telling the law firms, we want to see people who look like us. We want to have people who have our religion, who have our heritage, who speak our language. We want them to have a seat on the table. We don't want to see the same face. So being able to have the discussions, I'm trying to make sure that we are bringing the right people with the right skills and the right work ethic in the table, and to make sure that we're not limiting people's potential just because of where they come from, because they can surprise you.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. And what are your own personal goals and ambitions in your legal career? Where would you like to see? Where would you like to go? I guess is it better?
I can't put myself on a pedestal because I'm a really humble person at heart, but I want to say that I want to feel like I can help someone. I want to put myself and make sure I'm as available as possible to be open-minded, to allow people to come to me to ask for advice. Like, I love LinkedIn. It's like, it allows total strangers who don't know you, but they can easily track your story. I literally got a message, I believe yesterday, where a lady in the Middle East, she had no idea who I was, but she said, Daniel, I've been a connection for you for years. I've been following your journey, your work experience, and please, I just want to have a conversation, a phone call with you, just to know what that journey was for you. How was it like, and how I could get to where you're at, because it's been an inspiration. And that made me feel so humble and so great. I was like, that's exactly what I want to be for
that's
somebody.
really like wholesome and
Exactly.
heartwarming. Like, that's so, that's so sweet. I love that.
Yeah, I just want to have more people like that in the world. And if I can help one person, then that's the world to me.
Yeah, and so you, in your opening, you said you the Community Law Project.
Exactly.
If you want to tell people who might not know what it is, what made you want to do it? What does it do?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, you'll definitely hear from my fellow co-founder and director Dan in a second. He will be able to go into much more detail. But for me, it's been a great, special, and an excellent endeavor that we did together, because it showed that we, even as fellow black men, we can capitalize on the skills and take on a situation, the pandemic, that was seen as a really downgrade of people's lives, but we were able to change it into an opportunity that can help access into the profession. Especially things with the SQE coming up, that's supposed to help diversity and add more people from my situation, less privileged people, to be able to become their dream of being a solicitor. And so for us to be able to create a platform where we get volunteer law students and graduates, or people who are interested in law through the SQE, to be able to come in and help the vulnerable people and clients that used to do charity and support for down the road in places like Support Through Court. And so we bring them in. So we have a drop-in center that we opened up in Cardiff that we're trying to get people in to help the local community. But we also do hybrid and online working as well, where we have people in Ghana and India and China and all around Europe who are able to contribute and help, where they're learning the UK law, but also supporting those who really need it the most. And we're always looking for new recruits and paralegals and people just to help the cause and the mission, to bring our community together, because that's basically the heart of what we do.
That's really, really cool. Thank you so much, Daniel. I really appreciate all your responses.